Door apes Oh, can you hear us? He's muted. He's muted.
Not anymore. I can hear you,
Okay, we can't see you.
and I can't see you.
Kind of like it that way.
Not me too. Looks better that way.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order on December the 2nd at 6:03 p.m. on this snowy day. Clerk Snare will start with attendance. Counselor Scott McLean is running about 10 to 15 minutes late. Counselor Remy and Counselor Paul Morton are joining us by Zoom, and Counselor Yanish is going to join us, as well as Counselor Larry Pinch, and they should be zooming in shortly. So we do have quorum, so we will start. Oh, and there, just like that, Counselor Yanish is joining us. So I'm going to move on to 3, approval of the agenda, including any additions or deletions. I do want to make a small switch on 8, unfinished business, postpone motions. I'm going to move 8C to 8A, waste pickup crew information report. And then A will become B, B will become C, and D will stay as is. So if that works for everybody, and anyone have any other additions or deletions? Seeing none, then the agenda will be approved as circulated with that small amendment. Are there any declarations or conflict of interest this evening? Not seeing anyone online, no one in here, so there are none. We'll go to announcements. West Hants Regional Municipality is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes we are all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. West Hants Regional Municipality also recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. And council, as a friendly reminder, this council and committee and I as chair are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner as outlined in the municipality's municipal code of conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and public are expected to conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner at all times the meeting is being conducted. I'll thank you all in advance for your commitment to these important meeting principles. Okay, we'll move down to 6, approval of the previous meeting minutes, A 2025-11-12, Committee of the Whole minutes. Everyone, they were in your package and had an opportunity to read them, so not seeing any lights, those will be approved as circulated. So we do have a presentation that was on the agenda for the Falmouth Family Park, and we know that the weather is not great right now, so we will move on from that as the presenter is not here at the moment. But if they do happen to come, council, we will grant them their time to present, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. So now we're going to move right along to 8, unfinished business, postpone motions. And I want to, before I start with Director Keogh, I didn't give everyone an opportunity if you had any announcements yourself. And I know it's a busy time at Christmas, so I will circle back to that because there could be some events on this weekend. So Councillor Paul Wheaton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just let everybody know in Eller's house this Sunday on December 7th from 1:30 to 3:30 is our Christmas tea party. And like all events at the Ellers House Hall, it's a goodwill offering. So it's a good time to come on out, have a cup of tea and some sweets and meet the community.
Mayor Zabian.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I believe the Makers Studio downtown is also doing a parade of woodland animals this Saturday and next Saturday, I believe, and a couple of events, market in the alleyway next to Spitfire as well. So watch their Facebook page. A lot of great information. It's a pretty cool event that it's shaping up to be. So Maker Studio.
Perfect. Not seeing anyone and no one online. So now we will get to waste
I
pickup.
got one.
Oh,
I have
I
my
didn't
hand
see
up.
you. Okay, Counselor Paul Morton.
So
You have-
Festoon Enhancement is this Thursday night from 5 to 8, and Santa will be there. That is the place to be this Thursday night.
Okay, and just so you know, Counselor Morton, without your camera on, we can't see that your hand is up. So,
Gotcha. I can't even put my camera on, it won't work.
okay, so if there's anything you want to add, you just let us know.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Keo, you're now up.
Good evening. Before you is a high-level information report that identifies what we do by way of current regular waste cleanup in our parks and spaces, provincial and community cleanups, as well as education and enforcement. And staff have also included some options for consideration should council wish to take a closer look at that during the budget process. So just wanted to provide that. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you very much. If there are any questions for Director Keo. Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, not so much questions. I want to appreciate, I do appreciate the information in the report that it lays out a lot in there, and it's great information for council when we do start our workshops. I think we have one this Thursday. It definitely helps to progress those talks as we see how everything is shaping up during that budget workshop. So I appreciate this a lot and the work that went into it, and it gives me a better appreciation of what things may look like, and going forward we'll see where council will lay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. I too appreciate the information just by way of being able to think about it, soup to nuts on options and possibilities, and the range there is quite significant actually amongst the options. So that's great. I really did just want to check though, because we changed the order of the agenda. Did B become A, or I thought we made C A, and I'm just,
Yeah, and then A will become B. B will become C.
right. So this is the waste pickup, which I have as originally as B. And I'm only saying if we skipped a step, it's okay. I don't want to change the rhythm, but okay. Sorry, since we, yeah, that's, I just,
It's an older agenda that was printed by mistake, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That is the confusion on my agenda. It's different.
okay, mine too.
Okay.
Okay. All of this.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you, Director Keo. Okay, so we will move on to what I have now as B is Community Development and Public Works Operations Building, Short-Term Migration Mitigation Measures Recommendation Report. Director Richard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an information report related to some budget discussions at budget deliberations and direction from council to bring back some short-term options and some costing associated with those short-term requirements that are needed for the operation facility. So direction on it, there was direction given on addressing the short and long-term requirements of an operation facility for community development and public works departments. So in June of 2024, council approved the award for the design services for the operations building to TA Scott Architecture for the price of $214,000 and $40 plus applicable taxes. Fast forward to a year, this past June, Council did meet. There were concerns raised about the proposed facility, including the cost, number of existing municipal buildings, and unresolved plans for Morrison Drive and King Street. Safety issues that were introduced during the meeting added further uncertainty. So I know there was a number of difficult decisions during these past budget deliberations. Council did defer the operations building to future budget deliberations and requested cost estimates to bring the current building up to standard. So staff did reach out to several contractors. The issue is just trying to get a number of contractors to come in, give up their time to provide detailed estimates where it's been very challenging, just related to how busy contractors are. So it did take some time. We were able to get some high level costs from reputable contractors, along with just staff researching, and based on our past tendered and constructed tenders, we were able to pull together some high level costs. Just to reiterate some of the key issues, we do need temporary measures are needed for washrooms. I think we talked about this just related to one washroom in that facility for 20 staff and one outside portable washroom. Our heating system needs upgrades. We currently are still using a rented heating system. Air quality within that building and lack of storage needs to be addressed. So no provision for future growth or permanent solutions are some key issues. Council's current motion to look at 100 King Street for the new future home for municipal staff will provide some additional deficit on storage requirements because community development does have the bay in this building downstairs. And currently there's no adequate room at the current Public Works facility on Park Drive. And certainly lack of adequate floor space for indoor wash bay and fleet maintenance. We're quite crowded in that existing facility. So those are just some of the key issues. And I think we certainly talked about that at budget times. So just on next steps, if there is direction given by council, staff can proceed with collecting higher accuracy cost estimates. Our suggestion at that point would probably issue an RFP for consultants to come in and evaluate the current structure of the current building and then get a more detailed estimate on what those requirements are. And hopefully, in the 5-year capital plan, put some more long-term requirements for our operations facility. So we did break it down a bit. There's a chart there attached. It is important to note that these estimated expenditures would only address the immediate needs. Certainly not looking into the future, and not remove that overall requirement for a growing municipality to meet our service level, maintenance, storage, and long-term requirements. So high level, again, there's a lot of things that are exceptions in here, but our high level temporary short-term needs as a capital investment is just over $1.4 million. Annual operating costs for these short-term needs, as outlined in this chart, would be approximately another $42,000 on our operating needs. One-time setup costs to bring in portable washrooms and portable offices, approximately $25,000. And important to note that this doesn't include just the staff time, engineering design costs are not included, those figures. So again, that's the high level breakdown. There's a couple alternatives that council may want to consider. Direction to release the tender documents and bidding on the fully designed new operations facility as that addition, or like I said before, probably draft an RFP for engineering a short-term operation building requirements, so we can give you a more of a higher level estimate. So that's the information report, council. Happy to answer any questions or take direction.
Thank you, Director Richard. Does anyone have any questions at this time for Director Richard? Councillor Ivy?
Yeah, just to be clear, and I'm pretty sure I heard it clearly from Director Richard, but I want to make sure that I'm right about this, that the investment here of the 1.48, 1.5 will not contribute in any way to a longer term solution. In other words, there's a short term. And then if we were to release longer term tender documents at some point, we then look to sell or shift the use of the facilities being discussed in this report. Director Richard, am I correct on that? That this is not like a staged approach. It's do this short term and then longer term. Can you just make that clear for us?
Sure. And then I could probably just further expand on that. Certainly, with these costs that we broke down, the 1.4 million-ish capital investment does not go with the, engineered operations building that you all saw. Heating systems in the existing facility, making some improvements to the old wooden building. Certainly those would stay. So, it's not you're not wasting all that money. But certainly the cost to do the design build would still be the same because they really can't integrate. You're doing one, you're not really designing a bigger system because it's hard to put a bigger system on a small building without having direction to proceed with the addition in the shorter 5-year budget. So most likely that, that 1.4 million would be, an additional cost over and above the new capital build. So, but there would be some improvements to like the wooden building or the heating systems that, may not have to be redundant again or expanded with the additional building. So it's an additional, the way I see it would be an additional 1.4 million over the cost of the upgrades, longer term upgrades that are necessary.
That good, Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, and just to follow up, the source of financing on this is intended to be, if I could ask,
We use long-term borrowing for the most part.
just long-term borrowing. So I don't know where we stand with that right now as to what our percentage is on our debt ratio. Do we know what that is? Do we know what that's going to do to that number? What percentage that's going to push us to?
I'm not sure if Director Rashawn would have that answer for us. Perfect. She's looking that up as we speak.
Okay, that's good for me.
Good for you. Well, we'll move on to Mayor Zabian while Director Rashawn's looking at that.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Director Richard. Again, these are just cost estimates that you guys have put together. Again, we'd need to put it out to an engineer to design the work, lay it out similar to what we did with the previous build that cost council $214,000 worth. So we'd be looking at doing that process again to get a more exact cost.
Yeah, sure. The prices we got when you were reaching out, if it was a portable, washroom, portable offices, those are pretty accurate costs, but it's the electrical engineering and what the cost would be to upgrade electrical, the plumbing upgrades to for ventilation and also to meet the standards for oil and grease separation in that facility if we're doing that heavy maintenance. So those, like you said, would require some design and engineering input, which really aren't included in that price.
So through you, Chair, again, I appreciate the report, Dr. Richard. Again, I was on the fence last year, not knowing which way is the best way to go. Seeing this report and what the temporary upgrades would be to this facility and not knowing if that's even going to get us to 2 or 3 years down the road, and then not knowing the expenses coming on top of that, plus. We've already spent $215,000 in design for the new operations facility. And here we are looking at another 1.4 up to 1.8, depending on if you want to add in the operational costs and set up removable costs. So at this point, I don't think a temporary short-term solution is the best way to go for us for value for dollar. I'd be more inclined to proceeding with the design build of what we had discussed back at budget, to be honest with you. I know it's a little more expensive building, but looking at this report now and looking for our future needs, again, trying to be the most efficient and responsible for the tax dollars that we are collecting from people. I don't think I could, in good conscience, look at somebody and say this is the best way to go at spending 1.4 up to 1.8 to do temporary fixes on a building where we could just build something that's going to last us for the very long term. So that's a couple of my thoughts at this point, and see where council gets.
Great. Counselor Remy.
Hi, through you, Chair. I agree. I think that that building itself, I mean, it's not suitable for anybody to be working out of based on the information that we have been given previously. And I think investing any amount of money, especially for something short term, just to reiterate pretty much, I guess, what the mayor said, it doesn't seem like a, great use of taxpayers' dollars. So I'd be okay with moving forward with those plans.
Okay, thank you. I see Council or Director Rashawn. You have a number for us?
Yeah. So at the end of 24-25, if everything was borrowed against, we would be at about 9.2%.
9.2. Counselor Ivy, that's all you needed? Okay, great. Thank you, Director Rashawn. Counselor Bob Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. Really just echo the other comments. Was on the fence with the actual build, but seeing those numbers, it kind of puts it in perspective that it just makes more sense through the actual builds. I'd be more inclined to relook at that again.
Okay, great. Thank you. Counselor Ivy.
Yeah, just to pick up on Councillor Bob Morton's comments, I think from what we had talked about during the budget session and where we were with that, and I won't retrace that path as to what got us to where we were at. But I think the proper way for us to take a look at this is we have this, and then we have what was previously in the queue. And I really think you need to have the two of them put side by side together as a presentation on what was being proposed at the 5 point, whatever the number was, and this, so that we're not just doing a price pick. It becomes easy if one compared to 5 and you go, oh yeah, well you should. So I really think that presentation should come back to this council as a presentation as to what you're getting for the 5 and what that looks like compared to this. Because that's the decision that we're making here. Ultimately, that's what it looks like we're landing at. I don't know what other people think, but we haven't looked at that as to what came out of that design tender document in 6 months now. And so I think if that's the objective here, that we should be seeing what that entails and what this entails together. Just my thoughts.
Okay, Mayor Zabian.
Yep, I'd have to agree, Chair. It's definitely not a price pick at this point. You can't compare the two projects based on price. They're completely different. We have one that's very temporary, piecemealing everything together, and we have a new build. So it would be good to bring that one back and start looking at both in detail again. Probably a good project, or probably something to look at Thursday's budget session again for council to see what the overall outlook is looking this upcoming year's budget, and how both projects, depending on how council wish to go, how they fit in and what implications it may have. So definitely good to look at Thursday again as well.
Counselor Bonnie Smith.
Just a quick question. I was always for the new build anyways, and I still am, but the old building is still going to be utilized even if there is a new building. What of those renovations or whatever upgrades there will still need to be done to the old building to make it usable?
So much less. The original intent was to keep the existing building as either cold storage or heavy maintenance, like dirty maintenance. So the only kind of requirement there, we're going to have the electrical systems to service both, which was in that tender document, and also have the heating systems to capture both buildings. So that value would be much less because the new addition with the tender documents is the existing building was going to stay and be utilized for heavy maintenance or storage.
Anyone else? No. Okay, so seeing no more lights, Director Richard, I guess we'll hear more maybe on Thursday evening. Great. Okay, now we're moving on with the agenda that we made the changes to. So it will be C, Community Splash Pad Information Report, Director Keogh.
So again, before you is another information report, and it speaks to the, I guess, the high level cost or the cost estimates of a potential splash pad for the community. And we had reached out to various vendors to try to get a best idea of what it would cost. So it was difficult in the time frame, and without going through the procurement process, it's also difficult to get a really, I think, narrowing it down even more. So it is very much an estimate. You'll see the range in the budget area of the costs of what it could look like. Some vendors provided information that included some things, other vendors didn't include it. So without going through and having a set scope and deliverables, it's tough to get more accurate costs. So just for the budget, I think this is probably as helpful as we can be so far.
Perfect. Are there any questions on this for Director Keogh? Mayor Zabian?
And I thank you for the report. It was good information for me anyways. I think on my end, I would await for the needs assessment study to come back, Chair, to have a little bit more backup for what the community really wants, and for council to give proper direction at that point. But the information is great. I know from my discussions, I think it would be identified, but at this point, I think it's proper to wait for that assessment to come and see where we go from there.
Great. Councillor John Smith?
Thank you, Chair. I noticed in the site location that Elmcroft Park was the one that was mentioned. Is that, would that be considered like the leading location to put a splash park? Or is that
Again, it was comment, or it was included. It's on municipal services, it's municipally owned. So those were the main reasons. It's walkable by the community, it's already in a family friendly area. So that's the main reason why staff identified that as a location.
Okay, passes all the tests. Thank you.
Great. Any hands up at home? Seeing none. Thank you, Director Keogh. Okay, 8D, draft CSO residential property buyout policy information report, CAO Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as part of your package, we tried to provide the requested information from council at the November Committee of the Whole. So we've included in this version of the budget a little bit of an update on some of the correspondence that we've had with other levels of government. So we did our best to kind of list the timeline and the chronological order in which they were either sent or received. And in the cases of receiving correspondence, just a quick summation of whether it was confirmed funding or not. So of course, if council is aware, we really haven't had any confirmed funding sources from external sources on this potential that would support this potential policy. But lots of conversation at different levels about programs and potential amendments of programs and support that may or may not be forthcoming, but nothing that is measurable, I guess we could say. I have reminded council, and I was also reflecting on the previous council versus this council, the turnover, of course, as this file carries over from the previous council to now, and just reminding council some of the preliminary with respect to cost, some of the preliminary appraisals that we did receive that for the most part, and a reminder that those individual appraisals were confidential with the property owner and then ourselves as a municipality. So we're not sharing individual values of properties, but the average of those homes that were appraised through that exercise averaged around $350,000 in that initial appraisal. And again, I think I've said this before, and I would encourage council, if we do move forward with this policy, that you would entertain the appraisal process that would start all over again. That those perhaps we could consider them being indicators of property value, but that again, if you start the process of property acquisition, you would consider new appraisals. So with 6 eligible properties, as noted in the policy, again, their eligibility would further be evaluated based on CSO impact, but making the assumption that the 6 of those properties with the average of $350,000, that puts the acquisition side in around the 2.1 million. And then with the current policy format of 10% to accommodate relocation, type expenses and values, that puts us at another 210, putting us around still in the $2.1 million range. Did I do my math right there? I did
No.
not. I'm off by 210.
2.3.
Okay, so we'll make those amendments. Apologies, council. It looks pretty clear to me now. The twos and ones all look like they were in rhythm there. But anyway, for the purpose of the exercise, you get the sense of size and scale. Expense is not listed. Again, the cost of the appraisals, legal fees, decommissioning, and or demolition, depending on the path that this policy and the outcomes land, where those things land. And then, of course, a reference to all those pieces of correspondence associated with it. So hopefully that helps. I will say, in addition, verbal to the report, I did ask Director Roshan to comment on what $1 million is worth on the tax rate. And it looks like she's, is that 3 cents, Director Roshan, you're communicating to me? On $1 million? Maybe you could step up to the podium if you would, please, as this funding source would likely be long-term borrowing. So that would be financed that way, very likely, although it's something we could pursue further. So generally, the cost of $1 million on the general.
And the general rate would be 0.0036.
Okay, so less than a cent.
Yeah.
Okay. On the general rate.
On the general rate.
Right. And that, of course, is not unique to this project. It's any other level of borrowing for any other project, to millions and millions, so to speak. Okay. So if there's any additional questions, we're happy to answer. Or
Okay, thank you for the report. Are there any questions for our CAO? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. 0.0036, a third to 0.4 of a cent. Director Rashawn, can you confirm that I'm hearing that correctly with the zeros to be sure?
Yeah, so it would be 1/3 of a cent, a little over 1/3 of a cent. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Over a 20-year period, assuming 7% interest.
I would assume 7. Okay.
Based on the last debenture documents,
Could've gone up.
7, yeah.
Okay, on 20 years. So the other question I have, we've heard different times as it relates to the stormwater initiative, broad brush. And it's in its entirety, not this specific component that I think previously it'd probably be 2, maybe 3 years ago now, I'll say 2, that we'd applied for grant funding to assist with that. And so may want to keep you here, but through you, Chair, to CO Phillips. So the ability to philosophically or policy-wise to proceed with this subject to funding or financing being secured. In other words, that we'd still need to get funding or financing as part of this process. Is that possible? Do we have the ability to, in principle, look at this initiative and then still have it, but we'd still need to get the funding or financing elsewhere? I'm not putting a motion.
no.
I'm just asking theoretically.
I think what you're asking me is, so can we borrow money on, we're buying, so traditionally we would borrow money on an asset that becomes part of something. It's an improvement. It's something new. We talk about the public works facility. So borrowing money to purchase land for the purpose of ?
Right.
And some of those discussions are in camera worthy, I would suggest, with respect to answering that question. But let's just toss this aside as a theoretical. Can we borrow money for the purpose of doing something that doesn't have an asset associated with it? Yes, we can. Yeah.
And do we have to have that source of financing at this stage, or can it be conditional on sourcing financing, in other words, from federal or provincial government?
Sorry, say that one again.
Do we have the ability to support this from a policy or from a policy standpoint, subject to financing being secured from the federal and provincial government?
Okay, as the only
As a
source of
condition.
funding or as a
It's
piece
a
of the
combination.
funding?
We
Right.
could be looking at
Sure.
a third. We could be
Right.
looking at doing 100% from others. We could,
Yeah.
but does the ability exist to consider this conditional on finance or funding being secured outside of the municipality or the municipality and with partners?
I would say that's more of a decision of council than it is a finance one. So it's not unlike any other project that we would do. It has a price tag on it, and council decides that we're going to do this thing on our own, or we're going to do this thing pending other funding sources.
Right.
Right. So that's more of the answer is yes from a financial point of view, but that decision is more of a council discussion.
Right.
What percentage and so forth. Right. That happens in recreation often. We can do this thing as long as the funding comes aboard.
Right.
That type of exercise.
If funding does not come aboard, then
We don't do
we're
it.
in the same place that we are today.
Something like that.
In theory,
Or
without-
we do it ourselves, or
or we-
whatever the answer is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that helps with my thinking with this at the present time.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, counselors? Seeing none online. Mayor Zabian?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you, maybe to Director Richard. Just a couple of questions on the CBCL stormwater plan. I know it's a little off topic, but it kind of has to do with the topic of purchases and stuff. With the buyout plan, Director Richard, and with that as a topic, but as the stormwater management plan, it's laid out now. It's the plan is pretty much outlined of what we need to do. There's a recommendation at the later on in this meeting for 30% Stannis Street design, etc. Is part of that overall plan, is there any requirement that we need to purchase land to help improve our ability to deliver on that project, I guess?
Sure. Great question. No requirement to purchase land in the Stannis area related to the proposed next progression. And as you read, there's the 30% design recommendation report coming. So with that, there's no requirement to purchase land in the Stannis Street area other than the municipal land that we already have in that area.
But would acquiring land, would it help us enhance our ability to maybe add something to it that may help improve the success of the project, or maybe the ability to expand upon it if council felt that was the better way to go? Or is just trying to rationalize.
Just if I could interject,
Yeah.
I just want to be careful. We're walking the line of some hypotheticals on property acquisition, which we would normally, if I could, Your Worship. Perhaps the question is, does the current plan include any additional land other than what is presented? If you want to pursue other hypotheticals, I think that's more of an in-camera discussion. If I could give you that
All right.
advice.
I'll back off that question
Okay.
then. Okay, I'll leave it at that right now then. Sorry. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Director Richard. Any other questions for our CAO? Seeing no hands up at home, seeing no lights. Thank you very much for the report. But you're not off the hook, so we'll move on to 9A, CAO activity update.
Madam Chair, Clerk Snare will add what I'm sharing with you to your package. I don't know if she has the ability. Yes, she does. Thank you, Deanna. So quickly, I've really just hit the meetings here. We've had a short time frame between our meetings and this one, but lots of activity. So we would highlight, we had Minister Justice Scott Armstrong here for just kind of a quick visit. Sometimes ministers, as they get appointed, they try to do the tour. So they stopped and we talked a little bit about the policing review and some of those pieces, but nothing I would say significant with respect to a message to and from, but a little bit of an update on Department of Justice and what they're up to. Some of the other meetings under my category, lots of discussions around the Annapolis Valley Regional Library Services. And I think Councillor Remy is our rep. Am I right in saying that? She's nodding. Thank you. So there may be some things forthcoming as the library service continues to kind of forecast challenges with respect to the level of funding that they're receiving, predominantly from the province, and their ability to deliver services. So more to come in that world. But as a CAO group, we've met to just kind of talk about formulas and impacts. I continue to sit on the CAO roundtable for Department of Emergency Management, which last night we had a little workshop, so I won't revisit all of that. We've had some folks here from the Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education, really just talking with our planning department about forecasting population. They do it periodically and not just due to the scheduled of our elementary school replacement for 3 Mile Plains and Windsor Forks, but just part of their regular planning cycle, looking at what developments we have in the area and population trends and even commercial growth. So they're thinking of daycares and all these other components that not only support population, but school activity and so forth. So some interesting conversations there, but nothing really as far as an outcome, but we're happy to support them part of their process. Accessibility committee meeting met. We met with the high school graduation folks that at least the administration, about the possibility of hosting the graduation ceremonies in the sports complex this year and perhaps future years, as it seems like an opportunity for them and us to showcase the facility and also to have an annual memorable event that would impact a vast majority of people living in West Hants in some way. Climate Change Action Committee has met, PACHAC has met, and then we've had some meetings with Bryson Development just about their ongoing development and specifically Parkland. I also attended a meeting regarding the Valley Regional Enterprise and their tourism gap analysis that's underway. So that'll be a continuation of the strategy that was finalized a few years ago and just keeping the momentum moving forward with that. And then we continue to attend, myself and acting EMC Burgess, the quarterly alert ready app as part of emergency response. And it's just ongoing training and familiarization of how that system works and just to be prepared when and if it's required. So there's some highlights, Madam Chair. Happy to answer or expand.
Thank you for your report. Is there any questions for CAO? Mayor Zabian.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to CAO. Could we get an update on the warming center CAO, where we are with it? Again, snowfall, it's happening currently right now, and we're into December and it's getting a little chillier. Can you give us a quick update of where we are with it, with our groups and provincial funding and et cetera, et cetera?
Yes. So the warming center is again predominantly led by our caremongers group in our committee and their activities for the last 2 years. Presently, they have not been successful in securing the funding, I think, as we would say they had envisioned, with respect to having that warming center more or less look like it did last year. I think some of the 2 key hurdles at this moment in time is the province would like to see a 24/7 facility. I'm sure we all would. And that's kind of one of their, I think I could say, prerequisites of their funding. They'd like to see that. And then some concerns over the suitability of the facility, again, based on that provincial model. And again, we can all create an ideal shelter vision in our mind and what it would look like versus what the pool was and what the pool could be or the pool facility would be. So right now, those 2 things are not lining up, we will say. So I know that I have had some ongoing dialogue with some of those representatives on how mainly about the facility, but ultimately the hours of operation, the volunteer/staff component is being facilitated by the caremongers because that's where that energy comes from. They have expressed interest in doing what we might call a soft approach or reduced operating hours with what volunteer person power they have. So I think that's something that we are anticipating and they are anticipating as they start to mobilize themselves around who is out there, who's prepared, who's trained, what level of training needs to take place to get those volunteers in a position where they can operate potentially, I think now on the weekends. So we might see again that soft approach Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, that's yet to be confirmed, but that's kind of the model that we're looking at moving forward. Most immediately, we are ensuring that the facility is ready, not only for that group, but if another group is able to step forward, even on a day-to-day, from a day-to-day perspective, where, we'll try to make sure everything's safe and meets policies and guidelines. But if it's a volunteer group that wants to use the facility for a day or two, then we'll probably figure that out. So the alignment, we understand the alignment with the province and caremongers is not aligning right now, and they're looking at a reduced model. But if something were to change, either in the caremongers environment or the provincial environment, we might see something that we've seen in previous years. But right now it's a pared down version. The other thing I understand, it probably would not happen until later in December or perhaps January. So I hope I've been accurate with my Indiana here. We're in this thing together. She's giving me the nod. So again, lots of moving parts. And I hope I haven't under or overrepresented the groups, but that's our understanding right now. Yep.
Okay. Mayor Zabian, did you have a follow-up or some?
Wasn't the answer I was hoping for, to be honest with you, CAO. If I may, Chair. If council will allow me, that I wasn't expecting that answer. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You threw me off a bit. It's getting cold outside, obviously. There's a need to help. I don't have an exact number. It's a need to help some people out to some extent here. If we're looking at provincial stuff to come online in January, I think council could probably maybe bridge the gap to help get us to January. I won't put anything. I just maybe if I maybe I will then, Chair. Okay, so I'll see
I'm
my
just
mic at this.
hearing some. Did someone over here want to? I'm just hearing some. Councillor Ivy.
So I appreciate that we've raised the question here. I think it's valued, especially given where we're at the present time and what we have in front of us, A, short term, and B, where we're at in the calendar. And so I'm really appreciative that that the topic was opened up. And so what I will say, in thinking about this before we get in here this evening, is that we're sitting on the 2nd of December right now. Our earliest next council meeting is a week from now. But based on what I've just heard said here, if we're seeing things starting to come together in January, I don't know that gets us through January. And so I just think where we're at now. If we were looking to try and bridge this, I think we probably need to get to the end of January. And that's just me thinking out loud. Others may think differently, and that's okay, or may not even. But that's like, I don't know the conversations that have been held or the detail that may exist with staff, having had those, as to how do we bridge this, that we are starting something and stopping it, because we'll be stopping at a time that's going to be worse than what it is now. So I just want to think about that, if I could say that, and that we try and think our ways through that, maybe.
Councillor Bonnie Smith.
I'm not sure that bridging a gap is an option, because there isn't a gap. There isn't a guarantee of any provincial funding coming at all. And like Councillor Ivy said, we don't want to start something and then have to stop it and close the center, or try to come up with more to keep it open for the next 4 months. So there really isn't I'm not sure that where the January came from, but there isn't a gap. Provincial funding is not going to come to caremongers this winter season.
Okay. Mayor Zabian.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I don't know what service group would be able to do it or what the province has planned. I know Caremongers has done it the last couple of years with assistance from the municipality. It's been a pretty good partnership on space, volunteers, personnel, et cetera, et cetera. What a position to be put in, right? This late in the season. I'm going to put a motion at council's discretion and that the committee of the whole recommends council approve up to $20,000 in addition to funds approved in the 2025-2026 budget to bridge fund a warming center to assist local service groups to mobilize quicker to opening a warming center at the Hans Aquatic Center for the months of December and January to be funded from the West Hants Regional Municipality Operation Reserve.
Madam Chair, I'll
Yes.
have to excuse myself from this.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded. So I will entertain questions now. Counselor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to put it out too. I was looking at the forecast in the next couple of nights and it's going to be down to like -11. So just want to throw that out there.
Counselor Remy.
Through you, Chair, I just had a clarifying question. I thought that we had received an email from the minister or deputy minister or something along those lines. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and I was trying to find it, but saying that us contributing to this could have potential to interfere with funding that group could receive. Did I misinterpret that? And I apologize because I didn't anticipate this conversation here, so otherwise I would have been prepared, but.
I do believe, and I don't want to assume, Counselor Remy, but is it the correspondence that's coming on 10A2 from Jamie Smith, Executive Director of Supportive Housing and Homelessness Department of Opportunities? Is that the letter you're speaking of?
Perhaps that's the one, yeah, because our MLA actually responded to that too and said that us contributing could have potentially or could have the potential to interfere with the funding that group received. So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that or that I didn't misread it. And again, I apologize. I wasn't really prepped for this conversation. But that was my interpretation of the letter. So I just want to make sure that by us doing this, that we aren't actually interfering with whichever group takes this on and their ability to receive provincial funding.
Okay, thank you. Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say it's very disappointing that the province has so many rules around its funding when volunteers are willing to step up and make sure that the homeless are housed. And I did have a question. I wanted some clarification. So is the pool, the aquatic center, is it ready and do caremongers have access to it now? Is it something that, or does it need some more prep work or what's the
Okay.
exact situation?
Sure. So it would be in the similar state as it was last year during the operation, which meant we made some fire code regulation upgrades and so forth with fire alarms and various things that would meet the code. And there is then a threshold of the number of people that can occupy the space and so forth. So it's equal to what it was last year. But some of my conversations, and I will not speak on behalf of caremongers, I tried to share what I believe to be an update from them. But my conversations with the folks at the provincial level is that they would prefer to see some additional renovations to be more in alignment with their definition of a warming center. But I will say I'm not part of the application process. I've just had some dialogue with representatives where they're more or less asking me questions about the state of the facility and how difficult would it be to do this and to do that. A food preparation is something that they value, as we all do. And of course, a commercial kitchen satisfies that. So there is not a commercial kitchen there, for example, but are there workarounds and so forth? So those are, again, not personally, not to be overly critical of the province, they have their standard and their, that they would like to have. The facility presently does not meet some of those standards, but can they relax them? Are there workarounds? Are there alternatives? That's just the facility piece. Yeah.
So we're really at the beginning of the problem solving.
With respect to the provincial funding, if they can't, but sorry, to answer your question, it's available today. And when and if any group comes forward, and quite frankly, any individual to some degree, I can't just open the facility to any person, but someone that's trained and has a level of accountability and supervision and so forth,
Yeah.
then it is ready.
Well,
Yes.
the first thought that came to my mind is that we own a commercial kitchen next door in the community center.
Yeah.
So,
And recently upgraded.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Whedon?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just another comment on this. I mean, we don't have funding in place from the province. We have the ability as a council to make a difference here and to get this thing underway so people can get out of the cold. I mean, I think we have a right and a duty to take care of our less fortunate. Of course, I think the province should be funding it, and that is the model from a lot of municipalities, but I don't think we can afford to wait any longer. I think we have to move forward with whether it's bridge financing or whatever the case might be, but we have to step up here.
Mayor Sabian, did you have?
Again, I'm going to remain with full faith. I think the province will come through. Just, I don't think we have the luxury of waiting for that. I thought things would have moved quicker than what we know at this point. And I'm not going to point fingers at anybody at all by any means, but I think we were all hopeful that at this point something would be in place, and it's not, obviously. So I think we can get everything up to the end of January, and I think that's plenty of time for the province to figure it out on their end with any group that they're able to figure it out with or wishes to assist. And I'm gonna stand in support of the motion put forward. I think it's the best way to go at this point. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple questions. CAO, I'm not sure. I think you've given all the information you had, but you mentioned that the province would prefer to see the renovations. I mean, I don't know if they're going to fund for us to put a commercial kitchen in the aquatic center. Are these sticking points with the province, or is there a mechanism we can use our commercial kitchen at the community center? It's next door. It's close. And if we do now bridge funding, in my world, it's a loan. It's paid back when you use the word bridge funding. Just wondering, is this going to deter the province that, if the aquatic center doesn't meet their standards and we're going to buy into it and support it, will there still be support coming? Or
I can't answer that question, but and I often don't make political statements, and I'm trying not to, but I would hope that the goodwill of a municipal council does not penalize anyone in the views of the province with respect to their consideration. To the correspondence, it does state, that they're looking to have the establishment of a warming center that is safe, sustainable, and aligns with provincial guidelines. So we respect their guidelines, but how close can we get to it from a facility? And I won't speak on behalf of the volunteers, but how close can we get to that as a facility? I felt like the conversations with the representative I had were somewhat encouraging with respect to there's the baseline, here's the expectation, but how close or how can we otherwise accommodate? But again, I'm not the applicant, but I have had those conversations. And I will say that what we do have there now, by all means, is not ideal, but it is safe and it meets fire code, and that's what we did last year. So we should feel okay. It's not as good as it could be, but about the safety that is currently there. Any other improvements that they may be able to support financially would only make it better and hopefully get us closer to their guidelines.
okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Remy, did you have another question? No.
Yeah, and I guess it's a statement more than anything else. I just want to be clear. I mean, I know that council has received a lot of backlash on the decision that we made at the last meeting and or didn't make or didn't put forward. I mean, I guess I'm speaking, I don't know how to, I work in this field and I'm familiar with some of the standards and the reason that those things are put in place and the amount of training and all of those things that are needed in order to open a shelter like this. And I have also heard from several of my residents who said that they were proud that we made the decision that we did last time because this is not within our purview. So I just want to be very clear. I am not against us supporting the homeless people, like, or unhoused, the people in the municipality. I apologize. I just did not anticipate this coming up. So I'm sure that I could have prepped some stuff to be a little better wording, or have better wording, but I just know that, I would hope that the province would not take this as a deterrent to help these guys get through and all of those things. But there is a chance they will. And our role is not to fund these things. And I know a lot of residents are against this, and it breaks my heart to even say these things, but it would be terrible if this decision ruined that chance for them. So I can't vote in favor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Remy. Councillor Larry Pinch.
Yeah, so I was just going to follow up onto that, like some of the conversations I've been having. And it's not necessarily, I guess, the greatest way to describe it, but to say that it's like double dipping in the sense that your provincial taxes are supposed to cover these initiatives and your municipal taxes cover these initiatives. And when you are funding things that typically would be in a provincial level of government or order of government within your municipal budget, then essentially those taxpayers who have already paid in their provincial taxes for those items are again paying within their municipal taxes. And if we continue to move in those types of directions, then we will continue to be funding things that theoretically are already supposed to be covered in what people have already paid. And then they're going to feel that increase in funds on their municipal tax bill as well. So it kind of feels like they're paying into both pots, but they're not getting what they're necessarily paying into in the other pots. So then we are going to attempt to bridge that, which is fantastic. But also, if we continue to do that, then I don't know what the incentive is either for the province to grant those funds to cover these initiatives that are typically under them. So I am not opposed to a bridge funding, but I would appreciate if, and I know the CAO doesn't have this information, but that if we got confirmation that in doing so, we were not limiting the ability of organizations to apply for grants from the provincial government that would fund this initiative after that bridge period.
Thank you, Councillor Larry Pinch. Just Councillor Yanish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. When I look at the two main reasons the province doesn't want to fund it, one is they would like 24/7 opening hours, and they're also concerned about the suitability of the facility. It seems to me these are issues that could have been addressed by the province quite a while ago, not sort of at last minute. And so I just wanted to point that out and suggest that the likelihood of them funding this project to me seems low. But I think I'd also like to hear directly from the province from someone in a position of authority that if we do fund this or provide this bridge funding, that we are not somehow shooting ourselves in the foot or limiting the possibility of getting provincial funding. And I think that should be information should be achievable in with a simple phone call. And I think we've discussed this enough. There's certainly a lot of discussion in the community, and but I really think that answer is important before we move further ahead with this and make a commitment.
Thank you, Councillor Yanish. Not seeing any, Mayor Zabian.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, this is the last time I'll speak on this, because we do have a motion. It's made and seconded, but I think council was very proactive in approving its budget in June, approved funds for the location in June, articulated that. It was very well known. Lots of time to have things put in place and set up and be prepared for any group and the province to have something in place to help those less fortunate coming into the winter season. But yet we find ourselves here again. I'm going to reiterate, I was really hoping CEO would have a better, put him on the spot. I was really hoping there would be a better update at this point, but it just didn't materialize. And here we are as a municipal council dipping into a realm where we really have no expertise in dipping into and trying to help bridge things and make sure nobody is left behind, for lack of better words. But here we are, and here we are.
Any other comments? Councillor Ivey?
It is just that as a comment that the situation that we're looking to see be addressed here, the folks that have been working and are working on this are good people looking to do a good thing for people that are not in a very good position. I can tell you that last Friday night, having been out on the street for less than an hour, that even with that, my hands were so frozen that when I came in, it was one of those things when you put your hands under warm water, it actually hurts more. So that's what we had last Friday night. I think we all understand that. I didn't need to restate that, but it's just that's where we're at. Good people looking to try and do good things. And whether there's an issue time-wise here, but these are volunteers trying to solve this issue before professionals full-time get involved in this. And I think that there is a need to see this be addressed because of where we're at time-wise. So I would just say that all good people, even the responses that we saw in the last week, even some of those are good folks that just were quite concerned about what had taken place here. Good people, but good people can still say things that can be hurtful without intent, but trying to make a point. And so I think if we try and see that there's a situation here where we're at the beginning of winter, which isn't going to stop for another 3 or 4 months, that we need to be prepared to see that we have folks that are off the street, particularly given it's just night. They get up in the morning, they've got to be back out on the street for another 12 hours before they're back in, and be thankful that we're not within that.
Okay, Councillor Remy?
Through you, Chair, I did find the correspondence from Melissa. Well, first, I just want to make a comment that this decision or my stance on this motion has nothing to do with the people who are trying to organize it or the volunteers or anything even slightly close to that. It has to do with what we fund and what we don't fund. So I just want to be very, very clear, because I mean, I think that is the messaging that we're getting in the community now, whether it be on social media or the phone calls we're getting and those types of things, is that we don't care about the people and the organizations and all those things. And that is I mean, I can only speak for myself, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. So I'm not, I'm not sure how to take the comment that was just said, just because I don't think that this decision has anything to do with whether these are good people or not. I think it has to do with, like I said, the funding is what it boils down to for me. And but I did find the email from our MLA, and it literally did say it was appropriate that the municipality did not also fund the same request. So I mean, it just says, because they've been working with the province. So it literally says, like, it's appropriate that we don't fund that request. And that was from our MLA. So anyway, I am very torn, and I know it's getting cold and all of those things. And I guess I can't say this argument that this will be where I'll drop it, but I just want to be very clear that it has nothing to do with me not having compassion and all of those things for the people who don't have places to stay, or thinking that these organizations aren't good people, because it is actually the polar opposite of that. And I work with them almost every day. So I just wanted to make that very, very clear.
Counselor Larry Pinch.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to CAO Phillips. Just out of curiosity, because I mean, you have been having those discussions in person with the groups or volunteers, individuals who would be responsible with staffing the warming center. Do they have capacity? Is the funding solely the issue, or is there also a capacity issue with staffing the warming center? Because I know you had commented that the government wanted it open 24/7 and that they weren't in a place to do that. And then I know a post that was also made online from one of those groups about them withdrawing their grant application because they were unable to staff it in the capacity that the province was requesting. So I guess I just kind of would like to know that information too, if you happen to have any more insight.
I want to be very careful that I'm not speaking on behalf of the group, right? So, but my understanding is, like any group, like any volunteer group, you have some that carry the load, and then others that supplement that part of it. So I think they do have a dedicated core, but how far that expands beyond what they're currently proposing, which is basically 3 days a week, I don't know. But that's where the funding, I think, last year, and I think we saw some numbers even in our world and their world, where not everyone did receive, and we need to clarify that. Not everyone received pay last year that worked in the warming center, but it assisted those that otherwise might not have been able to because they're not working or had to have a shift, that kind of thing. So there's a mixture, counselor, of people, but I know there are a core dedicated group, and then they build around that. My understanding is they may not be able to achieve that 24/7 even with the funding as a group, but who knows? Then there's a recruitment process, and maybe people step forward. So I don't have a direct answer for that other than to know there is a core dedicated group. So
Good. Okay. Counselor Bob Morton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I too think we made the right decision last week. However, again, I was hoping the province would have stepped up by now and something would be in place. Kind of feels like we're playing volleyball with funding responsibilities, and the folks that are sleeping outside don't care about that. They want a warm place to sleep, and I too would want a warm place to sleep. So I say, kudos to you, Mayor, for bringing that up. Let's fund it. We can figure it out later. Just get them off the street. So.
Okay. Counselor John Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it feels like it's a learning curve for the volunteers and for the province and for the municipality. I was a firm believer in staying in our own lane just because of the tax reasons. But given the turn of events and the time of year, I don't feel like I have any other choice but to support the motion.
Okay, so seeing no other, Counselor Bob Morton, sorry.
Just have the actual motion repeat it before we vote.
Yeah, I don't have it, so I won't be able to read it. So Mayor Zabian, if you could read that for us.
I wrote it down on the fly there, Chair. Council approve up to $20,000 in addition to funds approved in the 2025-2026 budget and bridge funding to assist local service groups to mobilize quicker to open a warming center at the Hants Aquatic Center for the month of December and January to be funded from the West Hants Regional Municipality Operation Reserves.
Okay, I do have one last question, CAO. A lot of the conversation has revolved around interference, if we are running interference, and we never want to think we are. This is only committee of the whole, so I'm wondering by the time it goes through council or even a friendly amendment to the motion, that this is dependent on if we're not getting in the wrong lane would be appropriate, or would you have time, or would there be a conversation that could be had before
Yep.
next Tuesday, because we're running out of time?
Yep. I mean, again, I'm at council's will. I probably recommend leave the motion as is because you do have a little period of time here. I would speak to not only provincial representatives, but we do need to check back with caremongers. We are making some assumptions that, so I'll check with both of those parties and report back at council if this does proceed through here tonight to have that information for council.
Okay, and I see Councillor Remy, so I'll go to you, Councillor Remy, and then we'll take a vote on this.
Thank you, Chair. I know I've spoken probably way too many times on this, but if
It's an important issue, so I want everyone to have an opportunity.
No, and I appreciate that. If the motion was amended so that it was that we weren't interfering with those things, then I would be in favor 100%. My concern is that we are interfering with processes that are in place and their ability to get the provincial funding. So, I mean, that is a call. I mean, you don't do what you want to do, but 100% would be in favor of it because, again, it's not that I don't want this to happen for them. It's just I want to make sure that they get the funding that they're able to get. And by us interfering just based on the correspondence from the MLA and different things that I know in my personal or professional background, I would not want us to interfere with that. That is I mean, amend the motion or don't, but I can't support it the way it is, but if it was amended to say that, 100%.
I'm the chair, I can't amend it, so if somebody would like to, I would entertain that now. Otherwise, I'm gonna look for us to move forward. Okay, Mayor Zabian.
If I can just one more comment there, Chair. Again, this is committee of the whole. So we have a week before we get to council that based on feedback that CAO can gather from the province before next Tuesday, council can at that point amend or change or do based on information that CAO can acquire from the province, for example, and caremongers or any other group who wishes to help staff this warming center. So I don't believe we need to amend the motion at this point. The word interference can lead to a lot of questions within the community. Probably better not to use words such as that. Regardless of funding, who does it, when it comes, et cetera, we're here in the winter months. We're being told there's an impasse between service groups and the province on funding and proper locations, et cetera. You can go back and forth, but I think this step by council helps the possibility of getting something in place immediately until things can be worked out. I think they're two different conversations about who's going to fund the thing and how quick can this facility be opened. I guess I apologize, council, for putting you on the spot and throwing that out there. That was not my intention. I was really expecting a different answer tonight. It's about getting this warming center open ASAP. Nothing else. But we can fight about funding after the fact. If this gets us to the end of January and there's still something not in place, then kudos to you guys for stepping up and trying to get us there. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It has been seconded, so I'm going to call all those in favor, please show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, and all those opposed. 2 opposed. Motion passed. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on. We're into correspondence. Letter from John A. McDonald, DMA, to mayors, wardens, and chiefs. 10-2, response received from Jamie Smith, Executive Director, Support of Housing and Homelessness, Department of Opportunities and Social Development, regarding requesting funding for provincial support and establishing a winter warming center. 10B, correspondence sent as of November 28th, 2025. Letter requesting immediate public release of the environmental racism panel report sent 2025-11-28. So that is the correspondence that was included in our packages. Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, I'm really conscious of how we deal with correspondence, different from the way we used to, and so on. But we did hear about the letter at our council meeting a week ago from Minister McDonald, which it's admirable that he'd reach out to get a lay of the land and to give us a sense of some research they had done. But it was also struck on me that the comparison that was being done, and I'm sure that they're doing more than that, but they were looking for feedback, I think, which is probably at the administrative level to go back. And they were measuring, revenue against population, but our population isn't necessarily the way that we tax. It's based on residential assessment values and commercial assessment values. And so just looking at what I'll call the linear side of revenues based on population can skew the view that you may have, even so that when we look at where we sit within that range of municipalities throughout the province, it may look like we're in the middle, on the top, on the bottom. If you're, again, measuring it, it really requires, I think, a broader view of how we generate our revenue. And the reason I say that is if you go down through the list, you'll see the small community of Berwick, which has significant revenue, but I suspect, I don't know this, I didn't reach out to find out, but that's where getting beneath the numbers, it may be that their wind revenue flows in on top of their tax revenue, which gives a totally different picture. And so I don't know the answers to that, but I'm just saying that I think it's a valid thing to look at, to gather the data and look at it. But I think we really need to see that from an assessed value perspective, which may be closer to how things kind of shake out when you consider that.
Okay, maybe it's a report that you can bring back or something you want to look at, or
it might just be a conversation back to the minister through staff, perhaps save me chewing up your time reading another report. That'll leave it at that.
Sounds good. Great. Thank you. So we'll move on to 11, new business. Emergency water relief during droughts policy recommendation report. Clerk Snare.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this evening, before you is a recommendation report to adopt an emergency water, apologies, I need to look at my name, emergency water relief during droughts policy in response to the drought that we just experienced in Nova Scotia this past summer. As many of you are aware, major stress was put on our water sources and many other municipalities across the province. So in response, the municipality adopted, we prompted action through our watershed monitoring, emergency water distribution throughout our bottled water program and public communication on water conservation. So throughout that, we began that program in August of 2025 and just recently wrapped it up. And in response to that, we felt that it would be best moving forward that we had a formal policy in place in case we do see this in the future. So before you is the recommendation as well as the draft policy, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Clerk Snare. Are there any questions for Clerk Snare on the report that was in your package? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Chair. More of a comment, I guess, and it goes back to some of the dialogue that we had. I think it's a good thing to be looking in advance to have something in place, so we're not trying to pull it together when we get to should this occur again, that we're trying to figure that out. And for those who were not, on the piped water system, certainly very important that they be able to have access to water. The part of that we don't have here, but we touched on when we were first looking at the emergency related to this, was the volume of water that the lake has as a capacity. And since then, we've heard comments that the volume of treated water that we treat is down from what we were doing when we originally started doing treated water with the water plant back 2000. And I'll just say 2 for a quick number. But I think it's important that we know what's going on with that number, because the volume that we treat and what we see going through the master meters could be a complete misinterpretation on my behalf. There's a difference. And so have we captured all the water that we could, would, or should? Because if there's more water in the system that we can be using, then that can avoid us having to do a bottled water program altogether. We're treating 300 million gallons of water in the run of a year, but there's only 200 million making it to the bulk water meters. There's 100 million that we should be looking for. And so I just say that that's like bigger picture, great thing to be doing with this, but bigger picture that we find and get an answer on the volume of water going through our plant and that what's getting actually out onto the street by way of the taps. I think it's important.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Zabian.
I'll make the recommendation for discussion. Committee of the Whole recommends council adopt the emergency water relief during droughts policy RCOGE-004.00, substantially the same as presented at the December 2nd, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bob Morton. Any questions on the motions or discussion? Mayor Zabian.
Again, Chair, I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank Clerk Snare for her leadership on the whole bottled water program. It was Clerk Snare who reached out to the province. It was Clerk Snare who did that initial intake. It was Clerk Snare who did the heavy lifting to begin with and got that all approved and in place because Clerk Snare cares. And I know she's probably upset that I'm bringing it up, but it has to be known. No, you want to talk about somebody who's stepped up to the plate. It was Clerk Snare 100% leading the charge to get that in place, and look at the amount of bottles of water that people benefited from with the assistance of staff, public works, community development, our local businesses, fire departments, any volunteer that helped distribute after the fact, the voucher programs, the suppliers, all as a result of Clerk Snare's leadership and initiative to get that put in place. So I really need to stress that immensely, that, Clerk Snare, thank you. People really benefited immensely from that, and you deserve a great round of applause, honestly, folks.
You did a great job, and
It was a real team effort. There were a lot of people behind the scenes, quite honestly, Madam Chair and Mayor Zabian.
yeah, and they all deserve a round of applause because it took everyone to get it out to the locations and the vouchers. It was amazing, and staff did a great job on that. So good on you guys. Okay, are there any more comments or questions? Seeing no hands, I will read it again. Committee of the Whole recommends council adopt the emergency water relief during droughts policy RCOGE-004.00, substantially the same as presented at the December 2nd, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. Okay, all those in favor, hands. Motion passed unanimously. Great. Thanks, everyone. Now we'll move to 11B, award of tender WHRMP W25-16 plow salt truck recommendation report, Director Richard.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this recommendation is for the approved equipment tendered. It was identified in the 2025-2026 capital budget, identified as the salt plow dump truck replacement. The tender did only have one tender submission for this tender. After evaluation, the truck submission did meet the tender specification needs, warranty, serviceability, and the price was within budget. Delivery of this unit is quite lengthy, 52 to 60 weeks. So if this does go through council next week, we probably won't see this truck until a year from January. So that's the report. Shows the financial schedule there, slightly under budget with the trade-in value at $30,000. So happy to answer any question on the tender award.
Thank you, Director Richard. The tender, the package was in our package. Is there any questions for Director Richard on this? Counselor Scott McLean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Director Richard. How come there was only just one single tender, or one single application?
Really can't answer that. We reached out, several people come in, looked at the truck, suppliers, but only one bid submission made it to tender award.
Okay, thanks.
Counselor Ivy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Director Richard. Did we not add a salt dump truck recently to the fleet a couple of years ago? Am I remembering that? Did we not previously
we
had a truck, or is this the one from previous discussion, or am I?
We have more than one salt plow truck, so we have several.
Okay. So how many do we have in that regard then? Is it large number, small number? One or two?
Of this type?
Yes. Like what's?
I can get back. I can check that in my asset management and get you a more specific number. I don't want to quote something that's not
Okay.
quite, but
Wouldn't
we
want you
do
to
have a
either.
fleet. There's several streets to plow. We need more than one truck to manage our service levels.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor Zabian.
I'll make the motion for debate. Council approves the award of tender for the purchase of a 19,500 kilogram GVW plow truck outfitted as tendered WHPW 25-16 from Nova Enterprises Limited for the tendered price of $374,965 plus applicable taxes, less trade-in values of $30,000.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Paul Wheaton. Any debate on the motion? Seeing none, no hands on screen. The recommendation is council approves the award of tender for the purchase of a 19,500 kg GVW plow truck outfitted as tendered WHPW 25-16 from Nova Enterprises Limited for the tendered price of $374,965 plus applicable taxes, less trade-in values of $30,000. Everyone heard the motion? All those in favor, hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All those opposed? One opposed, 10. Counselor Larry Pinch. Sorry, I saw your hand up on the screen okay. So 2 opposed. Did you get that? Great. Thank you. Move along to 11C, 30% Design Award, Stannis Street Stormwater Management Recommendation Report, Director Richard.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this is recommendation report. Looking, we just had the recent public meetings and the committee of the whole meetings with CBCL that was recently presented. This does conclude the stormwater piece that CBCL done. So we did, it appears that we did have some momentum at those meetings, a bit of a direction. So following those 2 public meetings, we would like to recommend that we proceed with the 30% engineering design piece as the next phase. The majority of this 30% design will be discussions with the regulatory officials we know the questions that will be asked. There'll be a lot of questions asked because essentially we're directing CSOs into the Jacotha Creek. So that information, detailed information, will need to be transposed to them. So the key design parts of those are estimating the frequency, the volume of the current combined sewer overflows from pumping station 1 at the waterfront, as well as the overflows from existing manholes into streets, and estimate that future frequency and volume of the combined sewer overflow events from Cannibal Creek, and how these will decrease as this next phase evolves. One of the important things is to confirm that alignment that you were shown during the stormwater study, just the alignment of that those culverts along the Jacotha Creek storm sewer. Confirm the arrangement of the entire separated stormwater system, and develop a project brief that describes all those design parameters, answer questions, and any additional risks or requirements from Nova Scotia environment and climate change. So staff do recommend that the 30% design is awarded and sole source to CBCL. Our basis of that recommendation is they have all the information. There you have critical knowledge of all our systems. To go out at this point with an RFP to our standing offers would certainly delay the process. It would create additional expenses because they certainly don't know the background, and would create an abundance of staff time trying to bring those consultants anywhere. I don't think we could get them to the knowledge that CBCL has. So that's our reasoning, and it certainly meets our procurement policy for those reasons. And certainly we do have the capital expenditure that was identified in the capital budget was 250,000. So this is the design that the estimate that CBCL has given is 60,000, and those will be through our standing offer hourly rates that we already have. So as our standing offer consultant. So any additional questions or input, happy to help you out.
Thank you, Director Richard. Are there any questions from the report to Director Richard? Seeing no hands on screen, Councillor Ivy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, through you to Director Richard. So Todd, most of the way through this process in this project, we've been told that the ability to have new CSOs pretty much doesn't exist. That we have the one CSO point that we have currently, which is down in the waterfront, pump station 1. But the introduction of new CSOs as part of work on stormwater systems and the like, that new CSOs are not permitted. Can you explain that to me, that how we believe that we'd be able to add a new CSO into an environment when we've, to my recollection, been told that we can't add new ones?
Just to clarify the question, so you're talking, we have the existing CSOs. We're essentially just moving the CSOs to another controlled environment versus on private property, public property, a street. So that's the objective, is to move the current CSOs that happened in the flood zone area to a controlled environment, which would be Jacotha Creek. So that is essentially the 30% design to prove that this would be a better location, not on private property, not on streets, away from those areas in a controlled environment, and to get that approval from Nova Scotia Environment Climate Change. So that is the ask for the 30%. Part of that would be, as we expand out, separate our systems, that CSO will eventually go away once we have the full separation of our systems, and maybe not even full separation. It may be half of the separation, and we'll eliminate those CSOs that currently exist. So that's the ask, and that's the plan forward for this phase. And it would be an immediate relief for that Stannis Street area that I think was identified as the most critical need at this point.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's just Nova Scotia Environment. We don't have any requirements here with DFO as part of this process.
The regulatory official for this would be through Nova Scotia Environment. Yes, they would most likely, the area of where ultimately this would go would be a DFO, so there may be discussions with them, but at this point, it's just approval for this stage from Nova Scotia Environment.
And the 30% that you talk about when you describe this, is that because this is 1/3, 30% of the project cost, or is there some other meaning for the 30%?
No, the CBC, we had, lengthy discussions with them, and they think the 30% design would be enough to get that approval to move forward with the full detailed design. So the 70% would be the full detailed design of the system, but it would take 30% to get the enough information to theoretically get Nova Scotia approval.
Okay, and so that's the reason. So as I go to the capital budget implication, you've got a table within your report, shows long-term borrowing of 250, but you show total design on the project at 71,663. Is that what you're referring to? Is that the 250 is part of the bigger scope of design, or can you just make that clear?
Yeah, great question. So the 250 was identified early on for this phase to get us. Kind of like it was a very high level estimate. We needed to identify some engineering work to move the additional phases. So we probably overestimated it based on that, but no, it's not. We didn't have that accurate number. The 250 was for this detailed design. I think as we move forward, that number, again, it's a Class D estimate, will get more accurate as we go forward.
Just in the table, it's showing us at 250 for long-term borrowing. Can I just ask you to reference that to make sure that we're on the same page with regards to that?
That was the 250 is the budget amount, and the funding stream was long-term borrowing. So the 250 was what we estimated for engineering for the stormwater design to go forward. But again, that was a high level number. We picked $250,000 because we knew this is a big project. So we picked $250,000 for engineering and design work. We're only asking for 60,000 of that. And the 30% doesn't relate to the 250. It's just a 30% that CBCL said, let's get to the 30% mark. That'll give us enough data and information to go to a Nova Scotia Environment Climate Change to hopefully get approval for the next steps. Because we don't have approval to deposit the stormwater with potential CSOs, we're back to looking at another option, pumping stations in a more elaborate design. So this is what we're trying to move forward with, and that's the recommendation before you.
Thank you. And I think my last question, if I could there, Madam Chair, through the director. So at the last public session, the question came up as it relates to an easement going through from, I'm going to say Stannis, getting across through King and out to the marsh. And there was a question raised there as to the ability to secure an easement through there and timeliness. Is that what this is part of? Is this that path that we would need to have an easement through in order to get to deposit the CSOs into the Dragothic Marsh?
So there's several routing paths that we can take. Certainly, and I didn't kind of allude to it. Part of the O'Brien Street that's been awarded, CBCL has that design. So that's going to be an integrated project with this one. So we have some routing paths that we can take that, but again, this will be part of it. Because we had one gentleman speak up and say, we should be doing this sooner than later, but there's other options. It's essentially a pipe into the ground that we have some room to work with within that area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor John Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think my question was answered. So the 30% is for the regulatory type approval, and the 70% was for the actual design for that phase of the system?
So we're referencing 30%. It's 30% of the detailed design. So there's another. So if we wore this, that's just 30%. The 70% is more detailed. The 30% just gets us in an area where we know how much combined sewer overflows that we'll have. We know how much we'll potentially deposit in that Dragothic Creek area. Because this will be questions that Environment and Climate Change will ask. Well, how much is it? How often? How much are you moving from one area to the next? So we need to do that deep dive, and that's that 30% high level engineering that they'll do, along with the pipe routing. They need to actually nail down where exactly that pipe's going to go, and make sure that everything will work as the study suggested.
Okay, and one last question. So the water that's going to get moved, this is not just, is it just CSOs or is it all stormwater,
Yeah.
extra stormwater?
Yeah, great question. Glad you clarified that. 90 to 95% of the time, it's going to be, stormwater. It's these large events that we get where it overwhelms our systems. The combined flows that go to pump station 1 that we have the CSOs. And we have the really substantial events that bubble up in the streets and end up on private properties. Those are the type of events that will only have the CSOs directed to Gothard Creek. The majority of the time, it would just be regular stormwater entering that system.
So just one final question, clarification. So does that mean there will be no CSOs at the lake?
There'll be that will determine that 30% will have to determine that. I can't
Okay.
say it will eliminate those all. Certainly from a high level, certainly will reduce the CSOs entering that lake. So
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Any other questions for Director Rashawn or Director Richard? Sorry. Seeing none, thank you very much. And is there?
Me.
Okay, sorry. When it goes on this side, I can't see your hand. So
No,
Counselor
that's
Finch.
okay. So through you, Chair, to Director Richard. So if we do this portion and the data that we obtain, and for whatever reason, we are not given the approval to redirect that CSO, is the data that we are acquiring during this 30% phase still useful if we have to pivot to another plan of attack?
sure, good question. Yes, all this this data that we're collecting and design phase will be necessary regardless of which option we proceed with. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Now I don't see Counselor Remy or Counselor Paul Morton, but I'm assuming we would if they had a question. So seeing none, there is a recommendation. Mayor Zabian.
I'll make the recommendation, Chair. Council approve the award of 30% design street stormwater management to CBCL Limited for the price of $60,000 before applicable taxes.
Is there a seconder?
Second it.
Seconded by Counselor John Smith. So the recommendation is Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve the award of 30% design Stannis Street stormwater management to CBCL Limited for the price of $60,000 before applicable taxes. All those in favor, show of hands. Motion carried.
The second one as well, Chair. Council approve a design contingency amount of $9,000 before applicable taxes.
Is there a seconder?
Second it.
Seconded by Counselor John Smith. So the motion that we'll be voting on is Committee of the Whole recommends that Council approve a design contingency amount of $9,000 before applicable taxes. All those in favor? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone. So that's going to bring us down to 12, public comment period. So we have one member of the public. If you would like to come up, we're going to allow around the 4 minutes. There's only one, but if be something on the agenda, Amanda, just state your name for the record, please.
Amanda Dunfield. Thanks, Council, for letting me come tonight and speak. I was just curious, given the backlash over what has happened with the warming center and understanding housing is a provincial responsibility. But I am curious if any members of council had in the meantime actually reached out to the organizers of that volunteer group to find out sort of where things stood with them. Bonnie aside, because with her position here, obviously that's not something that she could probably discuss with anybody. I also wanted to say, if I may, that the province of Nova Scotia does have a history of committing funds to projects pertaining to unhoused populations prior to securing a not-for-profit to oversee the operation. They've done this in the past with in a partnership with municipalities and also with the assistance of private businesses. So you know, I can appreciate the MLA's comments and the province's comments as to there must be a not-for-profit identified in applying for funding. However, it has been documented that they have done this in recent history, where a municipality and themselves and some private businesses sit down and they say, we see a need, we see a project, and they commit to the funding, and then they find a not-for-profit to operate the project. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I guess, you know, we can't go back in time now, but thinking perhaps if proactively after budget, maybe there had been some contact and, you know, advocate on behalf of the municipality, simply for the province to say, well, geez, you know, you've got this group of volunteers who's been doing this, and the municipality has been very gracious about funding it. But, you know, we're not going to help out until you have a not-for-profit. And I think, you know, sort of as a community, that's where we have to step in and say, well, actually, you have done it before, and perhaps you can make that commitment again. You know, I appreciate the municipality is considering doing a bridge on that project because I think it's important. And I mean, certainly we've had some press around unhoused populations in the past, and we did have, you know, unfortunately someone pass outside last year, so we wouldn't want to have that happen again. I did want to speak to the CSO buyouts just briefly. I'm curious if anyone has ever on their own undertaken to reach out for a statement of clarity on the MGA under which conditions a municipality can expend money and acquire land. Because there has been some talk about why would we buy the land, and actually it's a fairly open process as to reasoning behind municipalities acquiring land. I'm also curious if anyone has any level of familiarity with the Provincial Emergency Management Act. So under that, and I'm going to read it probably off my screen if I can actually see it. I just wanted to say that under protection of property and health or safety, section 14, I'm curious if there's a conversation to be had there with the province. And I've known about this actually for quite some time, but you know, I thought it might come up in other avenues. Upon a state of emergency being declared in respect to the province or an area thereof, or upon a state of local emergency being declared in respect to a municipality or an area thereof, the minister may, during the state of emergency in respect of the province or an area thereof, or the mayor or warden, as the case may be, during the state of local emergency in respect of such municipality or an area thereof, as the case may be, do everything necessary for the protection of property and the health or safety of persons therein, and without restricting the generality of the foregoing may. And it actually goes through sections A through H. And under that, the minister may acquire or utilize or cause the acquisition or utilization of personal property by confiscation or by any means necessary, among other things, covered off in A through H. And given that we are in a state of provincial emergency in the area surrounding Lake Pisiquid, given that we know that the reservoir has had impact on this municipality's assets, I'm curious if there has been a conversation at any point with the province, because we know our health and safety is at risk here. I mean, we know we have to go to the Department of Environment to ask to move these CSOs to another area when they're already entering private properties. I mean, our homes and yards are impacted by this. Every time it happens, there is risk to safety. Every day that we're in our homes breathing the air, there is risk to our health and safety. So I'm just kind of floating that out there as a conversation that maybe it's already happened. Maybe it's been determined it's not a conversation to have, but the minister does have the power under a provincial state of emergency to consider the acquisition of properties. Not sure if there's been a conversation, But I did want to kind of share that there for the public record. And someday if I have the wherewithal, maybe I'll sit down and document out some of the clarifications and statements that I've received on that. Anyhow, thank you so much for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so moving on, we're down to 13 in camera. There is none. Next meeting date is December 9th, 2025. It'll be our council meeting at 6 p.m. So with that, I'm going to look to adjourn this meeting, and it is 7:57. Thank you, everyone, and drive safely home tonight. Thanks, everyone, for watching.